You know, drinking water is something we all do every single day without a second thought, right? But what if I told you there's a fascinating bit of science hidden in how you do it? So let's explore that together. So here's the question that got me thinking. There's this ancient practice that says you should drink water in 3 sips. Now, is that just a ritual, something passed down through the generations, or is there actually a real physiological reason for it? That's what we're going to dig into.
Okay, so before we jump into all the science, let's first get a handle on what this method actually is. What does it even mean to drink this way? So, the practice, which comes from Hadith literature, actually has 4 key parts. It's pretty straightforward. First, you take a moderate sip, not a giant gulp. Then, and this is super important, you pause. You actually breathe. Then you just repeat that until you're done. And the last bit is a simple rule of hygiene. Try not to breathe into the cup. It's a very deliberate, kind of mindful process when you think about it.
All right, so what's the difference? What's actually happening inside your body when you do it this way versus just, chugging a glass of water? Let's start with the immediate impact, right in your stomach.
Now this is where things get really interesting. When you gulp water, you're basically hitting your stomach with a sudden flood. It causes what's called gastric distension. Your stomach stretches out fast, which ramps up the internal pressure. That can even lead to things like reflux. But sipping? That's a whole different story. It's a much more controlled, gentle expansion. You're giving your stomach time to, accommodate the water smoothly.
And that little pause we talked about, it's not just for dramatic effect. Swallowing is actually a really complex dance of muscles and nerves. When you pause, you're giving your body a split second to reset, which makes the whole swallowing mechanism work better and keeps your breathing in sync. Honestly, it's a simple way to make the whole thing safer and more efficient.
Okay, now this is where my mind was kind of blown. The way we drink doesn't just affect our stomach. It has a direct line to our nervous system, and specifically to this incredibly important thing called the vagus nerve.
So we have to talk about the vagus nerve. What is it? Think of it like the main data cable for your body's rest and digest system. It's a huge deal. It helps regulate your heart rate, your digestion. Basically, it's the nerve in charge of your overall state of calm.
So here's the crucial link. Check out this chain of events. That simple act of pausing between sips, it forces you to regulate your breathing. And that calm, steady breathing, it directly stimulates the vagus nerve. And that stimulation is what flips the switch in your body, moving you into that relaxed rest and digest state. So you're not just hydrating, you're literally calming your entire nervous system down with every sip.
And this is really the bottom line, which our source material sums up perfectly. Structured drinking, it might actually support your autonomic balance. We're talking about the system that runs pretty much everything in the background without you even thinking about it. That's a big deal. But wait, there's more. The benefits don't just stop at your nervous system. This way of drinking has wider effects on how your body balances fluids and even on basic hygiene. Okay, let's think about your kidneys for a second. Their job is to filter everything and keep your body's fluids in balance. When you chug a ton of water all at once, you're basically flooding them, right? It's a sudden shock to the system. But when you sip gradually, you give your kidneys a chance to process that fluid way more efficiently. This helps keep the salt and water levels in your blood stable, what scientists call plasma osmolality, without that sudden overload. And hey, remember that last step, the one about not breathing into the cup? This one is just pure practical wisdom. It's a simple hygiene thing to stop germs from spreading, which was especially important back in the day when people might have shared drinking vessels. But honestly, it's still just great advice.
So when you take a step back and look at all these pieces, what we're really talking about here is, it's a form of mindful hydration. It's about turning a totally automatic habit into a practice that's actually beneficial for you.
This table just lays it all out so perfectly. On the left, you've got each step of the ancient practice. And on the right, the direct scientific reason we've just been talking about. Drinking in 3 sips helps control how your stomach fills. Pausing activates that calm response. Avoiding gulping reduces that harsh stomach stretching. And not breathing into the cup? Lower risk of contamination. See, every single part has a tangible reason behind it. So let's just do a quick recap of the potential benefits here. You could see less bloating and reflux. You could improve your vagal tone, making you feel calmer. Your body might even absorb the fluid better. And of course, you reduce the risk of microbial contamination. That is a pretty impressive list for such a tiny change to a daily habit, right? Okay, now a really important disclaimer here. What we've been exploring are these fascinating physiological correlations. We're seeing how the ancient practice lines up with modern science. This is not a clinical prescription or medical advice. For most healthy people, chugging water is totally fine. This is more about understanding the potential for, let's say, optimizing a simple daily act.
And that kind of leaves us with this one big question to chew on. If something as simple and automatic as how we drink water can have all these hidden layers of impact, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other tiny, everyday habits could we look at a little closer and maybe change our health in a big way?
Definitely something to think about.